to Rabbi Mordechai Sushart and the officers of Gateways for inviting me to be one of the presenters in this spiritual cuisine that we are presenting this year, Erev Shavuos. Of course, we have had wonderful get-togethers over the last number of years, but this year it's Min Hashamayim that we should be doing it this way, and I hope that everyone will be able to be inspired. The topic that I have chosen to speak about is a topic that is not spoken about often, but it's a very important topic, and that is the topic of vatronos, giving in and yielding. And one of the reasons that I think that it's appropriate for Shavuos is we know that at Kabbalas HaTorah, the Torah tells us, Vayichan Sham Yisrael, Klal Yisrael rested there. It could have said Vayachanu, it should have said that, because after all, it was a Rabim, Lashon Rabim, but it's Lashon Yachid because, as Rashi tells us, Ki ish echad b'leiv echad. So there was unity. And I think vatronos, giving in and yielding, brings to unity in Klal Yisrael. And I would like to begin by telling you a story that the Gemara tells us in Tainis Chafei Amud Beis. The Gemara tells us that once in Eretz Yisrael there was a famine, and they went to Rabbi Elazar. They asked him to daven, and he davened, and it didn't rain. And then they went to Rabbi Akiva, and they asked Rabbi Akiva to daven for rain, and he did daven, and it did rain. So people started murmuring and started saying, well, obviously Rabbi Akiva is greater than Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar davened, and it didn't rain. Rabbi Akiva davened, and it did rain. And the Gemara tells us something fascinating. A voice came out of Shemayim. Not that Rabbi Akiva was a greater tzaddik than Rabbi Elazar, but Rabbi Akiva had a certain midah. He had a certain characteristic. And this is a characteristic that leads to people having their prayers answered. And the characteristic, the Gemara tells us, he was a mavir al midaisav. He was able to look away when someone hurt him. And you know something? If you take a look in Perik Yutes, in Mesilas Yesharim, he talks about this. And he says everything that Hashem does is midah keneged midah. And if you are kind and considerate to other people, to other creations of Hashem, Hashem will be very kind and considerate to you. And so therefore, by the same token, over here, Rabbi Akiva had that midah that he was able to look away. And the midah keneged midah is that Hashem should also look away for anything that maybe Rabbi Akiva may have done wrong. And when Hashem looks away from some of the things that we have done wrong, then he will answer our prayers. And the Mesilas Yesharim writes a very frightening thing. He says, imagine if Hashem dealt with us exactly with strict judgment, and we would want that anybody who hurts us should be punished and should be judged severely because they deserve it, then Hashem will act that way to us. And as the Mesilas Yesharim says, who can stand up to that? Who can possibly stand up to that? That's almost impossible. And so therefore, that's why if we want our tefillos answered, that's one of the tremendous advantages of being a vatran. You look away when somebody hurts you, well then, Hashem will look away as well. And I'll tell you something very interesting. You know, if you take a look in the Sefer HaChinuch, Siman Shin Lamed Ches, number 338, the mitzvah there is, Shaloi lahoinais echad mi Yisrael b'dvarav. Do not hurt anyone verbally. Do not hurt anyone by saying something that's painful to them. And the Sefer HaChinuch writes that if somebody says something to you, you have to be able to look away. However, he does mention that if somebody hurts you and says something nasty, you're allowed to answer. He says you do not have to be, and the expression that he uses, if an even she'ein lo hoifchim, like a stone that's silent, you're allowed to answer back. And he gives us guidelines, the way to answer back. And he says if you don't answer back when somebody curses at you or criticizes you, it might look to other people as if you're admitting the guilt because you're not responding. But he does say at the end, at Siman Shin Lamed Ches, but those people that are strong enough and they are able to look away, oh, then the pasuk says about those people, V'oyavov ketzeis Hashemesh b'gvurosei, those who love Hashem and act in that noble way of looking away, they will be like the rising sun and they will be strong. And Hashem will give them what they want and make sure that those that have hurt them will be taken care of. But the idea is a person, if he's elevated, he can be that person who is a Vatran. And I'll tell you an amazing story. I once heard this about the Mashgiach of Tiferes Yerushalayim, Rav Michal Birnbaum. Rav Michal Birnbaum was the Mashgiach, a great, great tzaddik, and a very, very old gentleman before he passed away. And before he passed away, he called in some of his grandchildren. And he said to them, look, I know that some of you are going to have children. And when I die, you might want to name a child after me. So I just want to tell you this, that if there is a widow on the other side of the family, her husband passed away, name the baby after her husband. And don't name it after me, because he said that his wife passed away already. And like this, he's mavater. He's giving in on having a name after himself, which is certainly a great schos. But like this, the almana will be able to have a nachas ruach, because she then will be able to have her husband who will be named for. And that's a beautiful, great, sensitive thing. The question is, who's the greatest vatran of all? In my humble opinion, the greatest vatran of all was Rachel Imenu. She gave up everything. As a matter of fact, she was supposed to marry Yaakov Avinu, as you all know, and she was ready, and she did give up the simanim. She gave up the simanim to Leah so that Leah should not be embarrassed. Now, if you take a look in the Medrash of Eicha, Perek Chav Dalet, in the introduction to the Medrash of Eicha, it tells us that Hashem says to Rachel Imenu, because Rachel was crying, please don't destroy the Beis HaMikdash. Avram had pleaded, Hashem wasn't going to listen to him, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, but Hashem listened to Rachel. You know why? He said, Yesh socha lepulasech. There is reward for that which you did. You are mavater. You gave in. You gave up what really was coming to you. And because of that, v'shavu bonim legvulam. Your children are going to be able to come back to the boundaries. They're going to come back to Eretz Yisrael. So look at that. Because of Vatronis, because she was able to give in, she merited that. Because of her, the children of Klal Yisrael are going to come back to Eretz Yisrael. What a great, great schos. You know, but I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story that I feel was a remarkable approach to Vatronis and a remarkable gesture. Now, I am standing right in front of the picture of Rab Shalom Shadron, who is the Maggid of Yerushalayim, as many of you know. Of course, I was very close to him over the years. Now, it happened that after my father passed away, Rab Shalom Shadron, who had been one time at the Seder with my father, Rab Shalom, but now that my father passed away, he came to be with my family for the first days of Yontif. Now, of course, he had only one day Yontif because he's an Eretz Yisrael dicker. There was only one night of Yontif, and that night was Matzah Shabbos. Now, I'm sure all of you know that when Matzah Shabbos is the first Seder, it starts very, very late, because you cannot make hachonis, you cannot make any preparation for the Seder on Shabbos. Can't do it for Yontif, which is right after Shabbos. So what happened was the Seder started very late. And, you know, all the children wanted to sing and wanted to say their pshatim and their divrei Torah, all the different various grandchildren. And I knew that Rab Shalom had never, ever, he once told me, never eaten the afikaiman after Chatzos. But I looked at my clock, and there's no way we're going to make it before Chatzos, that we're going to be able to eat the afikaiman. I didn't want to say anything, but I said to my mother, you know, like I was motioning that, you know, we got to hurry up. And all of a sudden, Rab Shalom, who was sitting next to me, gives me a poke. And he says to me in Yiddish, Eil zach nit, don't rush. Okay, I didn't realize that he understood what I was saying to my mother. Okay, fine. But I started saying the Afrika, Eil zach nit, I told you, don't rush. What happened was that the Seder went on, and now it came time for the food. And when it came time for the food, of course, you know, there's so much to eat, and it takes a long time to serve everything. And this time I didn't say anything to my mother, but I, you know, tried to motion that she should hurry up. And again, he saw me. I was hoping he didn't. And again, he turned to me, I told you, don't rush. Okay. It turned out that we ate the afikomen after chatzos, and I felt terrible because I knew that he had never done that before. A person can eat the afikomen after chatzos. The lechatchila is to eat it before. Well, after the Seder, he and I were sitting at the table alone, saying She'ashurim, and I said to him, Rav Shalom, I feel so bad, because you once told me that you never missed eating the afikomen before chatzos, and now for my family, because of that, you did miss it. Listen to what he said. He said, why don't you understand? I said, why don't I understand what? He said, where are your priorities? He said, what does your mother wait for? Your mother's an almana. She waits a whole year that the children and the grandchildren should come, that they should be at the Seder, they should be able to say the Divrei Torah, they should be able to sing their songs. That's what she waits for. If I would rush the Seder and she would miss that, that would be being Mitzar and Almana. Eating the afikomen before Chatzos is a D'Rabbanan. Being Mitzar and Almana is a D'Oraisa. And so his priority was Vitor. He had never missed the afikomen before chatzos, but he was willing to give it up. That's greatness. Let us try in our own lives, with our families, with our friends, our business associates. Let's become people of Vitor. We want that Hashem should look away if we've done anything wrong. Hashem will look away and answer our tefillos, and hopefully bring us out of this pandemic sooner than later, and bring us with Mashiach to Eretz Yisrael. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for listening.